Talk about your dogs, your kids. All right, Parks Commission meeting called to order. Let's take a roll call.
Diana Wallace.
Laurie Mills.
Chad Smith.
Melissa Morrow.
Don Hudson.
Mary Elizabeth Cofer.
Victoria Johnson.
Great. All right, does anyone want to make a motion for the, do we have any public comments?
No public comments.
Okay, great. Do we have a motion for the minutes from the March 25th meeting?
Motion to accept.
Okay,
I'll second.
great. All in favor say aye.
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 Great, motion passed. All right. Western Hills Little League and Girls Softball, not here quite yet, but if they come, I know that the season has started. There's lots of kids out there, and things are going well. I do want to reiterate the importance of good communication between different park user groups. And so to that end, talking not today, but just generally about what we can do to have signage up, so that if a team is practicing and someone who's not familiar with our park, maybe it's their first time to come to the dog park, doesn't just release their dog out there and then get into a scuffle with the coach out there. So I've heard there's been,
had signage available.
we do, it's pretty small.
We have signage, but it still happens.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, anyway, I don't want that to be a topic, but maybe for this summer that we can kind of talk about again, like what are some ways that we can, develop a culture on all parties that everyone act in a civilized way when we're sharing the park space. So,
Is it an ordinance that governs that? I mean, if we saw somebody turning a dog loose when the little kids are playing, we could say, look, there's a city ordinance.
yeah, maybe that would help. I don't know. But that's a great thought.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. So we have Moss Verde came back. Oh, so I'm on number 4, the park tree planting project. And what you're going to hear, the number 4, number 5, and maybe even number 6 we may touch on all of those. They're kind of intertwined. But give me a sec to kind of lay out. We have a plan we had a plan presented at the last meeting for the trees. We all said, that looks kind of crazy, it's one straight line, we'd like to kind of divvy it up and have something different.
Actually, we didn't all say that.
Were you here?
I was.
Okay, so, let me finish this
Okay.
thought. So, we said that, we wanted to have them kind of look at that again and give us, and we would give them feedback to do that. Since that time, Alex came to me and she said, hey, we have talked about, on our list is the parking lot in general. That's a high priority for lots of reasons, probably the top of which is safety. Having people have a parking lot that's not very well marked, and if anyone came up here in the last 2 weeks on a day of a game or a swim meet, you can see people park all different ways, and sometimes block other people in and make it so that it's, to me, a very dangerous place for kids and families to be going along. So the idea is, and we've all talked about this before, is coming up with some parking that's more organized, more official, not just dirt. And so, because we've been working with Alex on the other piece, she said, give me a minute, I'll come up with some design. And I believe that she has a drawing of a possible parking solution. To that end, one of the solutions is to actually move the fence of fields 3, 4, and 5 over about 10 to 12 feet for a distance of, I'm going to guess, between 50 and 100 feet.
Over in or over out?
Into the field.
Okay.
Would you do field 2 also?
No, It doesn't,
It does
I
border.
believe, it doesn't move field two, it only, pushes in, and do you have so we can bring it up on this board. So, and just bear with me for a minute, I know this is a lot, but if I get it all out, I think you'll see the bigger picture. So I, just in testing the waters, reached out to the president of Western Hills Little League and to their president emeritus and to Chad, and I said, hey, if we had a way to have better formal parking that could accommodate more cars in a more organized way, and possibly even get rid of the back parking lot, and make that into more green space. You know, that was Alex's task basically. And so she has, and this is not it, this is the Mas Verde one. Go to the
That's
next one.
number one in our packet, so I think
Yeah.
she's just going
Okay,
chronological.
So go to the next one.
Okay, I'm not sure what attachment you're wanting, Alex, but, we'll just have to go through.
Yeah,
that. So-
yeah.
There we go.
I didn't know. It's just like my browser, I guess. Is that the browser up there?
Yes,
Yeah.
right here,
Okay,
yes.
tabs, got it.
It's not that
So-
one either. Oh, there we go.
Sorry, everyone.
No, that's okay.
Is it not this one?
No.
Let's see.
Keep going. These are all great tree ones, but this is not it.
Oh, okay.
We're looking for parking.
Parking
Oh,
under
okay,
5.
There you
sorry,
go.
sorry.
Sorry, I like literally
Oh, yeah. No, it's fine. Okay, so this might be a good place to understand. So this is, you see 12 cars back there, and then you see this is down below where we now make it,
You have a double row alongside of
Yeah.
3, 4, and 5.
yeah.
Do you want me to go to the one below?
So can you make that bigger without the two little ones?
Oh, like these little photos? right
Yeah, I
here?
don't need, or is it all together?
It is all together, but I
Okay.
can zoom in.
Yeah, zoom in to the bottom part where I'm trying to show where the fence goes in.
Right here.
Yeah,
Oh, okay.
yes, keep going down. So you can see the full length of
Oh,
what you're
okay,
gonna
gotcha,
get.
gotcha.
Okay, thank you, sorry, I wasn't good at
No, it's
describing.
okay.
Okay, so this becomes we have 2 rows, and you can see where that red dotted line, that's what we would be moving in. So when I talk to, now, again, this is not approval from Western Hills Little League, not, but this was just making sure that they would feel comfortable with an adjustment to the field, bringing it in order to create parking that's more safe and can accommodate more cars. Now, it looks like in this one, this rendition, you keep the back parking as well.
It's just to show you, currently you don't actually have the dimensions that allow you to have 2 rows technically, even though you're getting 24 cars in there.
Alex, can we get you to the?
Oh, yes. Alex Robinette, 2500 Hadley. I'm just showing you that as an option in
Yeah.
case that would remain, so, but
Yeah.
technically you don't have the dimension because you need 60 feet of width overall to get 2 18-foot bays and 24 feet in between for two-way traffic.
Okay.
And Melissa, you're saying that in your initial talks with girls softball and Western Hills.
I have
that-
not talked to girls softball.
Okay.
I will admit that. All I had the time for was those 3. I was kind
And
of
they were
hoping-
good.
And they were good.
Okay.
Now, they didn't vote on it.
Right.
This was
It's
just
the initial conversation.
The initial conversations was, oh my gosh, thank goodness we're finally addressing the parking.
Yeah, the parking is.
Because it is a big safety issue, and it is, anyone who's tried to come over here to park, it's really challenging. So, Michaela, can we? I think you scroll down to the bottom one. So this one, you really can see this sort of, in my view, the beautiful rendition of when we talk about, you know, if you got your green in the back, you have your parking lot, and you can see you still have 3 baseball, these are T-ball fields.
Now, isn't that taking something out of, field 2?
It does not.
Okay.
I know, isn't it weird?
Well, I thought
I
there,
kept
I didn't
saying-
real, I thought there was a straight fence line.
I did too, so I don't know why it works, but I don't know if it's just 'cause the other side works. But that's right, Alex? Yeah.
Yeah, no, the big curving fence around field 2 is unchanged. And you still get your pathway, even with double loaded cars, even down in that dimension, you have enough space. But it starts to get narrow, obviously, as you go north. So you really only need to push in that lower field, because there's lots of space, I mean,
Yeah.
as it appears.
And it's rare, I believe, that you have 3 T-ball teams practicing. You don't usually have you don't have all 3 having a game, I imagine.
On Saturday mornings we do.
All 3 do have a game at the
Oh,
same
yeah.
time? Okay. So again, you're only gonna get help by having more parking in an organized way.
So, are we talking about asphalt for that parking lot, cement, what are we talking about? And we'd have to pave it, wouldn't we, to delineate the spots?
So there are a variety of ways to do it. We could do something that's pervious. I know Alex talked about, but really she talked about it for the back one. You could do a thing where you lay, what was it? It's like you allow grass to grow through it.
It's
Grasscrete.
these 2 the concrete blocks that
There
you
you
sometimes see tend to shift and break a lot. And so these mats are polyethylene. You can drive a big truck on them. They basically, they're used in this situation often for places that want to look like a park setting but accommodate cars.
That'd
So
be a
that's
lot
one
better
option.
than asphalt or cement. And so this is increasing the number of parking spaces by how many?
On the previous slide, I was there this weekend and I counted cars. I think, can we go back?
I mean, how many
Yes.
cars can we park there now versus?
Well, we don't have
That-
official parking spaces.
So right now, you really can
Yeah.
only park about 16 spaces along the right where the pool is, where I have 185 feet. And below, you sometimes get 3 cars crammed in there between the tree and the dumpster. And then this front lot really should be about 10 cars. There were 12 cars there. One was parked on the trail, and one was like a mini that was parked right in front of the tree, kind of on the tree roots. So that was 12. I don't think technically, I mean, you could actually expand towards the west if you wanted to get some additional spots. But so that's 60 cars right now, just looking at that layout. But really, if you had 2 less, it would be 58. When I was there this weekend, I counted 57.
57 existing spaces.
I've counted 57 cars parked when all the fields were being used.
When they block each other, when they're parked on
Right.
top of
Yeah,
That's
tree
what-
roots, when
That's
they're-
bad.
Yeah.
My pictures aren't very good, but they park linearly along the fields, and then they park
Right.
head
And
into
how
the
many
pool.
would you be able to increase it to with this?
I think it nets about the same if you took
But
them away
it's
from the back.
safer, it's organized, it's it's designed to not be on tree roots. Now, I mean, I was thinking that we would be paving it like the other parking lots, but you know, we can look at, you know, that's up to us, as long as we can make it safe, have it well lined so people understand where they're gonna park. Because if it's not well lined, then people are gonna do the crazy
their
things
own.
that they do now.
And that would be the challenge with the grass. I think you end up having the wheel stop, either
Right.
a chunk of wood or concrete or whatever, just to indicate. I think you could spray paint it, but that's never going to last. So
Yeah.
It would be a shame to put a bunch of concrete or asphalt in there, that would be a shame, so if we could find an alternative to that, that would help.
I do think, I mean, and I'm not a technical construction person, but what I have been told is when you have a piece of, like we do right now, parking lot that's like that, that's been compacted for 50 years of people driving over it, it's essentially the same as having concrete on it.
Yeah.
And so nothing is
I'm
going,
talking about how it looks.
oh, yeah. Well, concrete is different than having grass. But again, this is a park, we know we're gonna have, if we have 3 t-ball games, a softball game, and something else going, we know, so if you have 10 kids at each game, 10, 20, so you got 60 kids just on 3, 4, and 5, you're gonna need to have 60 car spots. Right now, we have this jumbly thing that happens that doesn't feel safe of people not parking in it. Again, I'm fine with coming up with, this is just our first, like, hey, let's, before we plant some trees that we're gonna regret because we want to do the parking and have shade in the parking lot, let's at least consider, like, what do we want it to look like?
And I'm not against
Yeah.
the parking lot, I'm just saying, let's consider the surface before the decision's made there. Something that blends in with the park better would be nice. And keep in mind, this park isn't just softball fields, it's used
Yeah.
other days of the week for other things. And so it would be nice to keep it as green looking as possible. And gravel looks more green, whether it's compacted is all get out, that's one thing. And I'm sure it is impervious at this point. I've seen the runoff. But, you know, I like the idea that you're considering possibilities of other surfaces.
Yeah, one thing about the mesh is that it does trap oil and runoff, and it does help in that way. You could do some mixture of the two. You could have partial pavement, you could have trees in between and bushes so that it felt green. I mean, I would argue that the way the gravel looks is not park-like to me. I mean, I would choose, you know, a well-groomed parking lot, just as my unasked for opinion.
If we're gonna take away from the field space, I'd be in favor of paving or concrete
Yeah,
to make it look organized.
yeah.
I think that's the right call.
And you could do colored asphalt too, like if you wanted it to look earthy or earth tone or something.
Now,
So-
we don't have money for this right now, so this is really just a concept, and it's on our list of things to do.
When we made our list of projects, was parking on there?
It was like number 5.
Okay.
It's really the next thing that we
Well,
have.
and I think
Parking
we
and
need to
trails.
consider
Yeah.
it if we're going to do trees. I mean,
Yeah,
I think it kind of needs to get bumped up to the top before we do trees. So that makes sense.
Parking, trail, and trees
yeah.
altogether need to be considered anyway altogether, I think.
So what would be the next step?
So, you know, I guess it's, do we feel like this is something that we think timing-wise we would like to pursue pretty soon? We're gonna have to float this with city council. I have no idea, depending on whether it's concrete, asphalt, cause I just learned recently that concrete and asphalt are different.
Oh, gosh.
Yeah, well, I mean,
Yeah.
to me, it's just hard surface.
Right,
you know?
right.
But, and then what are some other green alternatives? Again, love to hear what are other parks doing to have green looking space, so it's not just more concrete.
Well, in this schematic, what I was sort of considering is that maybe that front lot, where it says 12 cars and I've used the green color, that could potentially be your mesh, so that it felt contiguous with the rest of the park and green. And then also, if you choose to not have parking at the back, that could also be the mesh, but that could also be controlled parking. Maybe it's something you open up during games if you need to, but otherwise you sort of try to discourage people not to go back there. I don't know, maybe there's a gate at the end of the long lot,
But so you're talking about losing some parking places? I mean, right now, we fit a good number of cars back there.
How many cars?
there were 24 over the weekend. If you look at just the
In
raw
in
map,
just that back one.
just that back area, and that's this top picture.
Yeah.
Oops, that was me, sorry. Yeah, so you have people just kind of parked all over the place, it's not.
Onto the trail.
Yeah, and so that's not, ideal.
Yeah.
But if you wanted to do the mesh, you could do that at the back, like I said. Otherwise, I think just from an aesthetic point of view, you've got parking on the periphery right now. You've got a gravel lot there right now. You know that's going to stay parking. And I think just in terms of maintenance and longevity, you'd probably be better off with some type of pavement in that area. But that's
Now-
fine.
Have any of you ever parked in that back parking lot?
All the time.
Sure.
It's really dangerous.
Yeah.
Trying to get out.
Yeah.
Do what?
I used to take my kid back there for bumps when I was little, because it was like so rough and.
Man, and trying to get out of there, trying to,
Yeah.
without hitting another car or a child.
You have to do it.
Now,
Yeah.
I have a question. It seems like now it behaves like caliche. It probably is caliche. But it could be hard gravel, like some, 2-inch river stones, for example, that are hard, wouldn't be creating a bunch of dust. I think and when we were doing this originally, when Melissa had us all proposing what would we like to see worked on, I said, how about hard gravel with some of our border stones like we used to line the trail, raised an inch to delineate the parking spaces. So you'd have limestone and hard gravel. I agree that using something like crushed limestone would be kind of awful, just messy. But it seems like hard gravel the park gets heavy use on the weekends, but other than the weekends, it's not serious.
Do you mean limestone an inch taller to delineate the parking spaces?
Correct.
I
I'm
don't
talking
like
about the border, the border stones along the trail.
that. Yeah.
They're this tall, they're about 6 by 8 tall and different lengths.
I think you're just asking to tear up tires.
Mm-hmm. They're
If
going to
you
get
put
driven
And it's
over.
a lot of
some
maintenance over
limestone.
time,
No.
and we don't even
An inch
keep
above. I do.
the trail.
Well, I mean, it's not like you're driving over them, 20 times a day.
I hear you.
And it wouldn't have to be. It wouldn't
I'd be
have
in
to be an
favor of
inch,
stripes,
it
but
could be a
I don't-
half inch.
Yeah.
I
What
mean,
was-
there's speed bumps all over the place that tear the dickens out of not just tires but cars.
What was that
I was
mesh
just thinking of
stuff
something that
called?
would look kind of in keeping with the way the park is now.
Yeah, I'm all for getting it organized, but I think that's asking for trouble.
I like the idea of that mesh stuff, that stuff.
Grass mats.
Yeah.
It's tall, right? Isn't it like 5 or 6 inches tall?
No.
I
The
don't.
grass mat?
They come in all different shapes and sizes,
Okay.
but you put some dirt on it, you scatter some grass seed, it grows, and then you mow it as if it was a lawn.
Okay.
Just
So we'd have to irrigate probably to keep it alive.
yeah.
Well, I guess first we need to get approval from Western Hills.
I'd have to ask the city, to find out in the agreement if we're allowed to modify, the fields, if that's within the city's purview for parking, et cetera. We want Western Hills Little League to like it, we want the neighborhood to like it. I don't know legally who we have to ask to move the fence over to make the parking. So,
My concern is that we're putting off our projects yet again, and it feels like we're not.
But
We're
we
just,
can't do the trees without knowing what we're doing with the
no, I know, I just said
parking
that,
lot, yeah.
but I'm just saying, still, here we go, and I feel like
I'm with you.
I have that concern too, although I don't think we
Scope
have to
creep.
put it off, especially if we're gonna wait till the fall, if we have the placement.
Mm-hmm.
I don't see there's any reason we need to put off the ones that could be placed before the parking lot is addressed. I mean, I think there's certainly, if we look at this anyway and follow this, there's areas where we could put a tree that wouldn't be touched
Mm-hmm.
by the parking lot. So I guess it just depends on tree placement, but I agree with you, if we have the money now ready to go, we need to make sure it stays reserved and used for that purpose.
So at the last meeting, if y'all remember, was it Mas Verde who basically said, if it were me and I was planting the trees, I would wait until fall.
Yeah.
So that you're not having to, you know, break yourself over watering them through this summer. So in the spirit of that, when Alex came to me, I was like, wow, maybe this is magical timing. We have 4 months to think about what is our plan for parking. If we can all come to an agreement about what we think the parking should look like going forward and make a plan, then we can plant the trees in October based on the plan that we all agree to, even if the money isn't gonna be there yet or we're not ready to do the parking.
The other thing, I was listening to the council meeting last month, it's April, right? Yeah. And they're planning to perhaps redo the irrigation on the big fields back there.
Yep.
So hopefully that might happen during the summer.
Yes.
There's a possibility maybe.
They really wanna do the irrigation as soon
Yeah.
as possible. So again,
That'd
Which
have
would
to-
work,
We'd have to
we
have the
want
fence
to have
placement
that,
worked
we'd
out.
wanna know where the fence is.
and where our trees would go.
Yep.
I still like the idea though of more trees. I'm not sure that I'm wild about the tree placement yet. I still like the idea of more trees being over there. We have trees around the park in so many places, but it's just bare on that side. And
Which
I
side are
see,
you talking about, Mary Elizabeth?
do what?
Which side?
The side that originally talked about putting trees, and
Oh,
then
yeah.
Mas Verde then turned around and gave us that big row of big giant oak trees that was incorrect. I still like somewhere in there, right now I see 4 trees there. I'd still like there to be more trees over there if possible. If possible, just because there's trees all around the park, but there's not trees over there.
So I just wonder because, you know, it is really hard to make stuff happen. We have this amazing person who's actually taken the vision and gone out and looked at all this stuff. Just as a general, I just want to get a temperature on people. When you look at this design with making the back part green, and when we say green, it could still be parkable, but let's say we used that green mesh for that back part as a possible. We could just make it green. If we do the trail the way she has it in this drawing that's up, all 3 of those Western Hills Little League fields are still maintained. And then go drop down a little bit in the picture. And if we did the bottom parking spot, again, with your idea of keeping things green, you're good, these are tricky.
It's very sensitive. Oh, I need to go to the next page.
Yeah,
No, it's this way.
It's below it, isn't it?
Actually,
or maybe it's above
over
it.
here.
Yes, so there you go. So if we were able to have the north piece green with that mesh, the bottom piece green with the mesh, and we're not saying we're deciding what that middle part, but we're saying that yes, we want to bring the fence in, and we want to have a double lane of cars. Do we feel like generally, like that would be an acceptable design for the parking and the park?
I think so. In my opinion, yes. I really think that if we can do something, we're lucky that there haven't been any accidents till now.
Mm-hmm.
And there've probably been some, but nothing horrific that I've heard of. So in my opinion, yes.
Diana?
I'm a little concerned with the layout of the parking and such, in the sense that I think it's gonna be very difficult for people to come in and do a square 90-degree turn in. I
Mm-hmm.
don't know if we've got enough space for that or not. The slanted makes a little more sense and seems a little more safe. What is the problem? I'm sure we lose cars in the process, but.
It's hard to back out of a slanted space and then turn around and go the way you came. I mean, it can be done, but
Mhm.
it's just a little bit more work. So, but really, in this drawing at the top end of the parking, there would be a cutout where those last cars could
Turn
pull
around.
in and get out. But, I mean, this is exactly what we have right here, this little section. So people are pulling in straight in and
Wait,
getting out
it's the
just
same
fine.
as what we have where?
Up
On
top
Gentry.
of
This
Okay.
lot right here where the
Uh-huh.
police cars are
the
parked,
lot on Gentry,
yeah.
the measurement, is that what you're talking about?
Yeah,
The
yeah,
measurement's
that
the same?
dimension, it's more than you think, it's easy to get backed out. I
How
agree
wide-
that the slanted ones are nice, but I think you just need a little bit more space for it.
How wide are the spaces?
9 feet.
9 feet.
So no Suburbans. No, I'm kidding.
No, it's, I very specifically said, the only thing people drive here are Suburbans and large
I was
cars.
making it.
This is not Tesla or whatever, tiny
Compact
cars.
car
Prius
parking.
cars, yeah, it's not
And
compact.
that is something I did observe when I was there, and you've got little kids walking, and you have big trucks where the driver is up high and the kid is well below the grill, and so, I mean, I was observing that, and I was trying to get through that tight area at the back while this truck was coming and kids, and I was like, this, yeah, it seems a little dicey.
For sure.
Well, I'll say one thing for this drawing. It looks a whole lot better than having the cookies and cream right there.
Well,
Milk and cookies.
Whatever.
Amen.
No, I think this is great, and I appreciate that you took the time to put it together, and it needs to be done. We need to have designated parking, and we can't pretend it's a park and everyone's gonna ride their bikes up there. It's just not feasible. And so I think it should be a priority that we do the trees and the parking lot hand in hand. Otherwise, we're throwing money out the window.
But we just need to move the parking along so we can get those.
Yeah,
trees in
I
the
agree.
ground.
Like, we need to be
Yeah.
able to do things without 4 months in between, but
How much
That's
green
not our
space
fault.
are we giving up to get the parking?
how much what?
Green space of fields.
that red that you see,
Okay.
and we're adding green space in the back and the front
Okay.
Well, that you can drive on.
that you
In
can
front,
drive on.
yeah.
You know, since the cars that people use around here are so big, might we want to consider going to a 10-foot wide space?
I think she's accounted for the big cars in the 9 feet.
That'd give you, if they're probably 6 feet wide. It's the common width of a car. So that means cars would be 1.5 feet to the line and 3 feet between cars.
If it's the same as the top lot up there, I think it
Yeah,
works.
the top
Yeah,
lot's
I
fine.
agree.
Yeah.
I park up there with all the people in the morning, and everybody's got a Suburban,
Yeah.
and we're parked right next to each other.
Yeah, I think the parking lot up top works beautifully.
Yeah,
Mhm.
I drive a big car.
yeah. Okay,
There was one
Yeah,
comment
keep
that I
going.
was gonna make, in terms of the trees. I think there is a plan, Michaela, one of those that I had, maybe it was slide 3, yeah, I think that's it, actually. That is taking into account whatever you do in the future, you could potentially plant these trees without impact. And, you know, I noticed that people sitting on the bleachers they're gonna get nuked, you know, and so kind of where I place them are by bleachers right now. There are holes there that could be filled with trees, and at the back you could get a little bit of shading for the trail back there. But right now, you really can't plant trees the way the plan showed them through much of this corridor. I mean, you really can't have anything in here.
Until we do the parking.
Why do you say that you can't?
Until we do the parking.
Why,
Because you don't have space to both have a trail, have a tree, and a truck.
Yeah, that's gonna
Mas
involve
Verde
moving.
disagrees with you.
Well,
But that's
I
okay.
disagree with their plan, to be honest.
That's
Can we look
okay.
at that
We
first
don't all
one?
have to agree.
The,
Michaela, the very first slide.
If we're gonna keep showing the slide with a huge row of oak trees, that's not gonna help us, cause that was
Yeah, I
incorrect.
think it's just,
And it shows, I'm looking at the parking for Suburban.
maybe.
It's the one,
That's
it's called L10, L100. You see that?
Well, I wanna do my first tree slide one.
This is what it says it needs for Suburban. That's plenty,
Oh, 8 feet wide.
yeah. And I think some Suburbans are bigger, so
Yeah.
9 feet's
There,
plenty.
there it is,
Yeah.
yeah. So even if these, as you said, were alternating big little trees.
And we did fewer.
Well, but
their understanding is that's exactly what was asked for. And, you know, you don't need trees, in my mind, shoulder to shoulder, like a continuous line of shade. I think that you can have clumpings and it's okay to walk into the sun for a second until you get to another tree. But even if these were alternating big little, they're still too many and too close.
Well, and we don't need that many, but I still like the idea of there being at least 5 or 6 trees along there. I don't think
Yeah.
the shade's
Yeah,
gonna
yeah,
hurt there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, it won't
No, we
hurt,
all
but-
agree.
yeah.
We all agree. We all agree that that's too many, and there's a number between, I don't know, 5 and 7. Probably that's the right number in there.
Okay, good.
So
So what's the next step then?
that's a really good question.
So
So
we need to
I-
go to city
I'm
council?
all for the trees. I think it ought to all be paved,
Okay,
so
just to be organized.
I've got a question for
Yeah, go ahead.
Alex, if that's, Alex, you have 3 tree slides, slide 2, the second and the third one. So that one,
Oops. I think they're all open,
Yeah.
actually, already. That's the same one that was just open.
okay, so Mary Elizabeth, just take a peek real quick because you see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. She has 6
Oh,
trees.
yes,
The
over
one.
there, after that highlighted one on the agenda.
I think that, let me just, I'm gonna close this one. And then, this is the one that I think you could plant these trees right now.
Okay.
What's the difference in the
And then
colors?
They're the different trees that's.
Size?
There's the chinkapin, the
Okay.
Monterey, the burr, which I really don't know what goes where or care. It was just to show that
Right,
there's a
various,
variety.
yeah.
And these are red buds and plum, which I felt like should be more visible, not kind of buried in the
Right,
back, but
'cause they're the
so
colorful
people can
ones.
see them.
Mhm.
So, I mean, I think that you could,
Okay, that looks good, you're
I
right.
think that
Yeah.
looks
That's
great.
good, we
Yeah.
still
So-
get that row.
Alex, on this one, is that kind of because there's 2 and one with fewer trees, and this is the one with more trees. Are you
Oh, I
saying
see
the
the
one
key
with
now.
fewer trees, we could go ahead and plant and then
Yes.
end up with this after the parking space?
Correct.
Yes.
Although, this came before I was doing parking.
Right.
So, this was just sort of backing up.
Well, do you
Um,
think we could ultimately strive for this, or do you think the parking negates some of that?
Well, if you move that fencing in, the lower piece,
Mhm.
then those 2 yellow trees either need to be in a parking space
Oh, do
You
we don't wanna
know,
do that?
or
Couldn't we just move them up?
you could potentially move them in. I do have a question about tree overhang with fencing
Mhm.
in ball fields and
Mhm.
like what those requirements are and
And then I have a question for you real quick. Have you been able to identify whatever the heck this plant is that's up here? It's very thorny and invasive in the city. They have been working on mowing it to give us some just flat ground there. And right now, it looks like they seeded it with something. But Dawn can tell you what grows there is something something with really deep roots, and it's very thorny, and I have no idea what it is, and it's mean. And I see you have a couple of trees there, which would be great. Anything that would crowd out. The problem we have there is erosion behind there. I mean, that's the one reason to not get rid of that stuff, is I think it's helping to hold our soil.
That's
But
a good point.
those trees back there are really, that you've got the idea of planting there, that would be really important there for us to consider, not just for beauty or shade, but also for holding the soil.
Yeah, I have the trees on the inside of the trail there, so
Oh.
that they shade the trail and not on the outside of it.
Ah, well,
So-
would you take a look at that sometime, and when you're down there, just tell me what you
Okay.
think?
Okay,
My
so we're gonna
background is
I'm gonna
not
bring us
landscape
back
architecture.
To the,
Okay,
to our agenda.
I
So,
have one
yeah,
quick question I
yep.
wanted to ask, since we're talking about safety and the like, this is really off the wall. But one of the biggest concerns that I've experienced is the crossover from one side of the trail to the ball fields, when you're walking past there,
Mhm.
people going across there. No disrespect intended, but has anybody considered putting the trail next to the fence over by the,
By the pool?
yeah. I mean, there's already shade over there for one thing.
we did talk
Yeah.
about it,
Okay.
actually, of an alternative of whether to put it there or over by the fence.
Okay.
Do you wanna speak to that?
Well, for one thing is the ground level is not level. It's gonna take a lot of regrading, and it's pretty unsightly against that fencing, looking at the pool equipment and all the junk that they have there. So to me, it's not like a pleasant trail experience, so it would require some work. And if you then wanna get space for a trail, the bumper for the vehicles, you're pushing the vehicles more towards the fields, which is fine, but then you don't have a buffer of a trail. You've got exhaust pipes and idling cars right next to the field. And so I think that on most days the trail is nice because it's more kind of in the park, but I just think it would take a lot of work if you moved it over
Well,
there.
and one more thing is then the pedestrians would have to cross close to Rollingwood Drive, and that would actually be more dangerous. They would be crossing the trail, if they weren't crossing where you're talking about, they'd be crossing it close to Rollingwood Drive from the trail there to get to the other side. So maybe it's best that they cross closer in.
You're talking about running it along the fence between our park and the pool?
Yes.
Yeah, they still have to walk across that parking lot.
At some point.
So, is there anyone else who has a question about this? I'm not trying to rush you guys.
No, that's
So
fine.
if y'all aren't ready for a motion, but my vision for this is a possible motion that as a general concept for the next improvement for the park is the parking. With this idea of turning the top parking lot into green space, making, two road parking, along the eastern side of the ball field, turning the front one into additional green space, but both of those could be, with the mesh, parkable on busy days. But again, building more green space and, just as a concept.
I'd be okay moving forward with that.
Can we do that?
So and here's where what my ultimate, if we have a motion, a second, and let's say we pass it, and we say, as a general concept, this is what we would like to move towards this. I really need city council to have at least a quick discussion, cause if the majority of them are like, no way, we're not interested in parking, this is not a priority for us, we'll
Then
let
we
it
don't need to
go.
spend any more time
Yeah,
on
we
it.
don't, and
Yeah.
we'll just say,
So you're
let's do the
talking about
trees.
informally, yeah.
Well, it's not informal, I mean, we're gonna make a motion and say, this is our
Oh,
recommendation
well,
as
we're
a
not- we're not
design element,
posted
the
for
next design.
action.
Oh.
Yeah, that's,
Okay.
we're talking about spending maybe an extra 100,000 on the project. They would have
I
to
would
think
love
about
to take
that.
action, but I don't
You're right,
think we can.
you're right. Okay.
I've never seen the green mats. I'm a little questionable about that. I'd be all for it. I think it's long overdue that we do something that's organized and classy and looks good. I just don't see it with the green mats. So I'd be all for it if we're talking about paving it or concrete or whatever and putting stripes down.
And maybe we should find a place for where they have green mats that you can look at before you
Yeah, maybe.
decide.
Yeah,
Is
sure.
there any sort of, with those green mats, I assume it has like a plastic coating on the metal, is that what it has? And what is the maintenance on that, do we know, anything, like how long they last or anything like that? That might be
Good
worth
questions.
looking into, because
Sure.
if that metal
First
starts
I'm heard-
popping out of that plastic, you've got tire problems.
Aren't they solid?
Well, tire
plastic?
problems or mud problems if it's raining
Yeah.
or
Yeah,
whatever.
so
I
do
just,
think that warrants a little more investigation.
yeah, I don't know anything about them.
But
but-
let's find out first before we
Yeah.
spend any more time on it,
Yeah.
if city council wants us to
Right,
spend
right.
time on it.
But I love the idea of organizing it and making it
I do too.
more safe and parkable. But I think the end result is we need to just pave it and be done with it.
Would you consider, I wasn't actually thinking of the green mats necessarily for the long lot. I was mostly thinking.
No, we were
for-
just thinking for the north and the south.
Yeah, yeah, I
ends.
just wanted to be
Yeah,
clear.
yeah.
Yeah.
I think everybody's in agreement it needs to be paved in the middle.
Yeah,
Yep.
I'm not.
Well, I was gonna say, I don't think Dawn and Mary Claire,
yeah.
Mary Elizabeth.
Mary
Mary
Elizabeth,
Elizabeth.
sorry,
Well,
are there,
I mean,
but,
I'm up in the
Okay.
air about
Well,
it.
let's figure out if city council even
I think
wants us
it's-
to do
Yeah,
this.
let's-
I think it's
find out.
I think it's
Spend
best
more
for
time with it today. We
yeah, I
still
think
have
it's
a lot
best
more
for
to
all
go.
parties involved to pave it. I think it works better for the dog park. I think it works better for the
It's not a dog
baseball.
park.
I
I don't think that,
You
I
know
don't
what
think
I'm
that's
saying.
a decision we have to make right now.
we don't, so we're not
Yes.
posted to take action on it today. So let's all do a little more homework and,
But I think the motion is still there
Okay.
because we don't need to spend another 30 minutes on this next month if council says we're not to the point where we want to do that yet.
okay.
Mhm.
So I think we do have to get their insight.
Okay,
I
so,
would have to add one thing, which
Yeah.
is that in looking at anything with reference to the park, my priority is never paving.
mhm, oh,
My
sure,
priority is.
But we also
Sure.
have to look at long-term costs and maintenance of these other options. I mean, we don't have an unlimited budget and, I mean, let's just see what they want us to do
Yeah.
before we keep.
okay.
So a
But-
motion maybe that,
But hold on, Alan, is there even, can we even make a motion if we're not posted to take action?
Let me refresh myself on what the item is. No, discussion, no, I think it's just more direction. You can't take action because it doesn't say possible action, but I think direction, a consensus of the
Okay.
commission seems reasonable, it's enough for us to go off of.
Okay, so, so we don't need a motion, or we do?
I think that the language precludes the motion, but I
Okay.
think you can still come to consensus, that way we at staff level still take it to city council
So
with
staff
the
can
consensus
still
the
take it.
commission was this.
Yeah,
Oh,
we,
great.
we
I think it
could
has the
say
same
very-
effect as what you're
Okay.
trying to do, but it's more correct.
So staff can take it.
We
Yes.
could say very generally that we're looking at expanding the parking and moving the fences and shrinking some of the ball fields. I mean, we can be very general about that. That'll give city council at least some idea of what we're,
let's use the
What we're looking at.
picture from, the one that's the beautiful
Yeah,
picture.
generally, this is what we're thinking.
Generally,
What do you
the
think?
beautiful picture, what do you think? This is our vision.
We
going
support the beautiful picture.
forward. Yes, sorry.
No, I think that, the
hard to
consensus, I think, is
describe.
really all we need. Yes, Michaela and I are familiar with this picture, and we can use the
Okay.
exact picture for it.
Great.
Thank you.
So because of that, as far as like moving forward, because we were discussing possible action on the tree planting, can we all agree that we want to take a step and wait till we hear back from city council about the parking before we move forward with an actual tree planting?
Yeah.
Okay,
yes.
I'm generally against waiting
okay,
when it comes to the Parks Commission, but so I'd be in favor of moving forward and telling them we want to move forward with this parking.
so are you making a motion, because, so one other option was, Alex had, with the general design in mind, she had a way to go ahead and plant, what was it, like 6 trees now, Now, we would have to probably go back to Mas Verde and say, if we did this in 2 stages, if we planted these
That's more
today,
expensive.
it might be a little more
But
expensive.
isn't their
But we can find
recommendation
out.
to plant in October anyway? Why would we wanna try and keep these plants alive through the summer?
Yeah, I wouldn't
Yeah.
wanna
I
start
don't,
now.
I feel like that's a
I
waste of
just-
time.
Agreed, yeah.
Okay,
And time.
okay. Okay, I
But
just
I would
didn't,
like
I didn't
to
know
I
if you
think
were
he's
saying.
saying he'd like to see the parking lot move, like, this all move further.
Oh,
over.
yeah,
Yeah.
me too.
Yeah.
If we
I-
were
I'd
for
say-
action, we'd be making it.
Yeah.
If we could shoot for October for all of it or earlier for parking
Yeah.
and then trees in October, whatever.
But I think if you go to council and they still have their meeting this month, right?
Mhm.
Next week? Could we get on the agenda for that?
Yeah, cause it's 5 PM today is the agenda item.
Yes, we have
deadline.
time
Okay,
to run it by
so
the
we
mayor. With the
would
mayor's
know in-
approval, yes, ma'am.
We would know in April if they wanted us to do this, and May we can start making real
Yeah,
progress.
exactly.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah,
great.
like
All
that
right.
plan.
So, so we're done with 4, we're done with 5. I want to warn you, I have to leave in 9 minutes. Y'all can continue on without me, but, so, we've done 5,
Field house.
Field house, okay, so another idea, very rough, is, this is your assignment. In fact, I won't even do it. I'm asking every Parks member to get the key to the field house and walk through it between now and our next meeting,
Okay.
okay? I want you to go inside it and go, wow, I had no idea there was this much space and trash and junk in here. And what are some dreams that we might have for what we want to do moving forward? And at our next meeting, we can talk about dreams for the field house. And I'll just put in your ear, possible community meeting space. If you want an extra field trip to do before that meeting, go look at what in Peace Park they did, right when you, I don't know what they call that area, but you know where all those long tables are in Peace Park? Everybody has birthday parties there. Maybe you do, maybe you used to have Kingsbury Commons. They took a building, not too different in size than that one, and made it into a small / community. You could have your book club there, you could have a small group of people there, you could have whatever, parties. I know anyone in here who's had the discussion about just maintaining the pavilion, you're probably going, oh my God, really? I don't wanna have to maintain another space, but,
We already have a space to maintain that we are not utilizing.
exactly.
My only fear in what you just proposed is, this sounds like a grandiose thing, when I think you need to put it in context of, here's what we're really proposing. We're really proposing that it become a meeting community space similar to that in Peace Park with the amenities we already have. And then think about it in that context rather than dream up whatever you think we could use the field house for.
I love that, yeah.
So
No, that's
I
fine.
feel like people need
Yeah.
a little bit of context, and maybe if we give Alex 3 minutes to show what she has, maybe that is a better way of approaching it than
Sure.
bring your grandest ideas.
I mostly wanted you to see we are not using
We're,
it.
yeah,
and
it's
it
a
is
bad,
just-
it's a bad
I mean,
deal there.
honestly, if we just cleaned it out,
Yeah,
however,
I agree.
we just need to clean it out, like it's just totally not used.
Who has keys to that? Do you have keys
There
to
are
the?
photos.
Okay, you wanna show the photos? Yeah, yeah.
Phil has, Don Phil can get the keys.
Okay.
And I'm gonna have to leave.
Yeah,
also.
oh,
This-
trust me, I'm leaving at 1 o'clock,
Okay.
so.
I'll be quick. I did get the plans from the original architect to see what the layout was. I got inside. Maybe there's Field House 1. Sorry. That's it. And there's a few photos that'll show you kind of what it looks like. It doesn't feel efficient to me. Like that upper left caged area has a lot of floor space that is just not utilized. Like if you're just storing things, you can do that differently. I understand that the riding mower is going to go away because it's Little League and Rolling Wood takes care of it. The concession stand is just not being used, maybe because it's just not it's more of a nostalgic idea for this, but there's just not the capacity for it. But you could still have a space that you set up tables, and if you want to sell things, you can, but then you fold up the tables and it can be repurposed later. And so then on the other slide, of the Rolling Wood, real quick, Michaela, yeah. That's the Tudor cottage there. Really, what's most useful is the outdoor space. And I think that's, like, I totally am with Lori on, let's not, like, have a bunch of extra stuff. Let's just repurpose kind of what we have in a more purposeful way. And so I think our outdoor space in front of the field house could be amazing, just with some bunch grasses and some boulders and picnic tables and maybe a trellis, which is the next slide.
On the west side.
On the west side, but this is also real quick because
Yeah.
we're doing the retaining wall. When we were looking at that, it's like, well, how can you make this space usable? Not just solve the problem of runoff, but a delightful place to use that you could have picnic tables and kids playing on rocks and things like that. And so I just think that there's so many different things that could happen. You could have National Night Out, 4th of July, game night, table tennis, chess, bingo, movie night, and then you could rent it and get revenue. I mean, yeah, as you said, think of all the great things. Camps, classes, fitness, book club meetings, barbecues, beer tasting, whatever. Sorry, I don't know if you can do that in the park. BYOB.
You can do it at the pool, you should be able to do it at the pool.
Yeah, right? Anyway, I just think that once you sort of start carving out some spaces that feel good, that people want to inhabit, you're really inviting the community in. So,
Absolutely.
Yeah,
Yeah.
And
Great
we
idea.
have a space we are not using.
yeah, yes, we have a building that we're not using at all.
yeah.
So, thank you, Alex.
Thank
These
you,
are-
Alex,
This is
again for your work.
amazing. I know this is a lot of time and creative energy, and as someone, you know, you've already spent time on several committees, you know how draining it can be. So I hope this is feeding you a little bit of doing some fun stuff. So,
And Rachel too, by the way.
and Rachel too, yeah, thank you. So,
Thank you.
Thank you,
Um,
Rachel.
So that's sort of our homework for the next time. So in May, when we come back, we're gonna talk about parking. Hopefully the city will be like, we're so excited that y'all are bringing us that project. Hopefully, the other piece of it, RCDC comes back and says, thank you for thinking of some really cool projects that could bring our community together better. Anything else on that? Okay, so I know I'm leaving, what do we have? 3 minutes. 3 minutes, which is not nearly enough to talk about the potential park project. Oh, RCDC, I'm gonna leave off because they did not come today.
I'm right here.
Yeah,
Oh,
he's right
sorry,
there.
sorry. Sorry.
I was gonna say, be sad if we don't see
Yeah.
it, say something.
So, what are your thoughts when you see all this?
Who is he?
So we're not throwing strays about milk and cookies 3 years ago. The thought is, actually, y'all need capital, right? And we can help. We have a ton of money that we can't spend, quite honestly. We can't spend enough on the business development side. Can't spend on, like, you know, the improvements on the street. And so there is a real opportunity here. I mean, we have, I think, north of $400,000 that we can deploy to help really improve the park. And the things that you've all said are perfect projects for us. So what I was thinking actually was when we have these ideas, right? So you need a funding mechanism behind it, right? So RCDC is the funding mechanism. So like all this stuff is fantastic. $100,000 for the parking. I'd love to get this thing, you know, up and going. And so the way that makes it a stronger case really is with those items. I mean, at the next RCDC meeting, I'd like to present them as a possible project for us to fund. So you have park coming with these ideas of the tree planting and the pavement, and then, you know, whatever the idea is for that, and we take that and we make it this project of park beautification. We can break it up into units or whatever. But then RCDC, because if it's a capital project, meaning something that is, I think the duration is over like 3 years, and it's a material like advantage to the community for economic development, which I think these would all suffice for, then we can actually allocate our funds for that. And I think we've been having a run rate of typically $130,000 a year to $180,000 in revenue. About $60,000 of that gets allocated to help with the city. So we have about $80,000 we can use for other stuff. But we built up kind of a war chest through COVID and everything else. And it's just sitting there. And we're actually at a point, I think we almost have to put it into, like a special account because so much money is rolled up. So.
Take it.
Yeah, right. So the thought is, okay, so we have these 2 or 3 items. What I need is kind of a budget allocation from y'all, like what do you think it costs, estimate, and then I would like to present it at the next RCDC meeting as kind of a project for us to help. So when city comes and says, well, you know, we don't want to do this because it's $100K, well, we're sitting here on $100,000, here's your check, and like start using the funds for ways that beautify the city or in however way possible. So that's really it.
And
It's
the tree
quite
money
simple.
has already been allocated?
Yes.
Yeah.
The tree-
So we're
and
really talking
also
about the field house and the,
And the
parking
parking.
lot?
Yeah, the
Mhm.
terrace.
The
oh, you
erosion
weren't
by the
here.
field house
Yep.
has been
The,
allocated. as
Yep,
well.
both
that's
the
correct.
trees and
Yeah, but Laurie,
the wall.
are you aware of the new terracing idea we had? Okay, yeah, because that's been funded also.
But really, it's
Yeah, I knew that.
anything that's a capital improvement, we
Yeah.
can help.
Yeah.
And so anything you come up with, like if you're throwing gravel out on the on the walking track, like that's not really a capital improvement, but it's anything like trees in the ground, concrete. I mean, just like you're running a business, any capital improvement we can help with. And
When's
so
your next meeting?
our next meeting, I believe, is next Wednesday.
It was rescheduled,
Okay.
it's now gonna be on the 21st.
Okay, so the 21st. So
That's a Monday?
Yes, ma'am.
what I'd like to do is present
Yeah.
these as possible. I mean, we'll just bring them up, we'll add them to the agenda, and then we'll just bring them up as a way to fund them.
What do you need as ammunition? Do you need us to make a motion that RCDC approve
I don't think
this?
so. I just need to present the projects. No, I don't
Okay.
need
What
anything
do you
other
need
than.
from us, like a
I mean,
summary?
well, yeah, we'll need the summary and then the cost, like the potential cost, because we'll request like an allocation of our funds, because even though it's technically the EDC's money, the city council still has to like release it to us, and so it would just be of a matter of
Is
that.
it-
But this coming kind of originating in parks, RCDC then providing the money. I mean, that's all we really need. Yep.
Is it better for us to overestimate, like can we,
Yes.
than to underestimate? Like you can't
be as
get
exact.
more
I
to a
mean,
project once it's been
well,
approved?
it's
Are
just
there any
another,
rules like
like,
that?
It's just another like procedural process, but it'd be better to have as tight of a.
Efficient.
Well, you also just get as tight a bid as you can. I mean, ideally,
Yeah.
you'd want to have.
They want a
Yeah.
fully baked idea.
I know, but by the
Sure.
21st, I don't know that you'll have parking
Oh,
numbers.
no, we won't. We won't have
But,
it by the 21st.
I mean, you have
But it's
estimates,
just-
right?
Again, they can talk about it as, hey, generally, do you guys, is
You
this
want us to
something?
go this direction?
Yeah.
And
And
then we
again, we'll
can.
need city council also to say, because I've had this happen before. We're giving you the money, we all love
Mm-hmm.
this, and council still decides it's not a priority because for whatever reason.
Well, good, we'll be working in
Yeah.
tandem between this meeting next week and their meeting on the 21st, and when we come back in May, we should be able to
Yes.
hit the ground running.
Right,
Yep.
and so then we can at least in theory approve the project, allocate potential funds, and then I don't know why city council will turn down a free project with free money. I mean, I'm not on council, but.
You'd be surprised.
Yes. Well,
I
you
mean,
can
I know,
imagine-
but I'm
yeah,
saying
yeah,
it's a stronger case, right? So.
totally.
Sure.
And then, you know, I would encourage you also to like, you know, as y'all look at the paving aspect, it is a park, and I've sat here and heard you, but like those meshes and those like things that reduce the overall temperature of that area are good versus just a straight paving mechanism, you know, because it does hold heat, especially when it gets warmer. So anything you can do to offset kind of the heat side is something worth looking at. So maybe we can go on a tour all together and look at, you know, the grass mesh. Because you can, even the mesh that she proposed, it actually, they have it that it's metal, but then you can also like almost kind of sod it, so to speak, and so it has like a greening aspect, and you know,
Yeah, I've
Will absorb
seen
heat.
it metal. I've seen that, and that's very durable.
yeah, I think it's something like the Arizona Cardinals use something similar to that on their field. That's how they roll it, moving back and forth, but and they have turf on it. But I'm not saying we would do that, obviously, but it's very versatile. So that's it, really. Just if there's stuff that's capital improvements, there's only so many ways we can spend it, and one of the best ways I think is the park. So that's really it. So I have a list of the agenda items. I'll work with Michaela getting it scheduled for RCDC, at least bringing up what y'all discussed. We may or may not need somebody from parks just to kind of lay it, like discuss it in a little more detail than what I can articulate here from the hour that I've been here. But that's really it, because y'all been
Thank
working on
you.
it for a
Thank
while.
you, we
Thanks,
appreciate
yeah.
That was like the magic ending,
Yeah.
is
There you
the
go.
money, so
Yeah,
I think
I mean,
that's
it
huge.
needs to be used. Like I said, I mean, I really have to. What is that? What is it called, by the way?
We don't
We
need
have
you
to-
to
we
set
have to
up
put it
another
in-
account.
We have to put it in the
We'll
fund.
take care of it.
The tax pool, yeah, because we have, it's
Put
just
it in
sitting there, and I
bonds.
think it's
Oh,
over
just
500,000.
forget about that.
right?
You have us.
Yeah, we'll take
Yeah.
your money.
So
Yeah.
it's a pain. We'd rather just spend it on stuff in the city. So
We would-
Especially the
we
way the
agree with
market's
you.
going.
Yeah.
hopefully that
I'd
turns
rather spend
around.
that money than,
So
yeah,
all right, thank
Just
y'all.
lose it.
than lose it, yeah. All right.
Thank you.
I'm gonna call the meeting. I do want to have, talk to friends and about the donation, cause I know this is gonna be an important thing going forward, but let's just save that for our next meeting.
Sure. What he'll need is he'll need a kind of a proposal with these are the different parts of it. We won't be able to get hard bids on anything between now and the 21st, but we might be
Yeah.
able to get, we can probably rough in the square footage of concrete and talk to a couple of concrete
Well, we need to
contractors
get
or
past the meeting
some of the
next
grasscrete,
week.
Yeah.
well, cause this thing's not really fleshed out or agreed upon how we're gonna proceed.
No.
But we can kind of get in the ballpark with a few numbers, but not pavement.
I'm all for pavement.
I'm for
Yeah.
pavement.
You've made that clear.
Well, I'm sure we will find a good, happy medium.
Well, for the 21st, it sounds like he just needs a summary and a ballpark,
Yeah.
and really, we don't need to get hard bids
Yeah.
until May.
Yeah.
Yeah, but we need to get like rough
We need
dollars
to
per
get
square
council
foot
to
kinds
give
of
us
things.
direction.
I have a quick question. Is there any chance that we could have our May meeting on Sunday besides Tuesday, May 6th?
It's May 13th, isn't it? Aren't we the
Oh,
second
I hope
Tuesday?
so.
I think we're the second Tuesday, 'cause this is the second Tuesday.
This is
Yes.
the second Tuesday.
So it's the 13th.
Oh, thank
that work?
goodness. Yes.
Okay, May 13th.
May 13th.
All right. Do I have a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
All in favor?
All right.